as well. So what I thought is we'll speak about three things broadly. One is to ask each of our panelists to define the subject as they see it. When we talk about employability, how are they seeing it? Ruma is going to talk about it more from a demand side. The other two gentlemen more from a supply side. So that's one part. The second is, since we're here, we're obviously talking about this as a challenge, as an issue to be addressed. So therefore, how does academia see it, or how does business see it, or can see it? And really then looking a little ahead. So all of that in less than 40 minutes, or at least I target 40 minutes. And maybe we can get in some questions as well, which you can address with it. So what I'm also going to do is, as you start off, speaking about how you see the challenge of employability, but maybe you could also spend a couple of minutes talking about yourself and the work you're doing, because I didn't see any introduction here. So it'll be good that people know what you do and how you're approaching this subject. So let me start from here, Ruma, and then you go.
Thanks, Govind, and thank you, EdTech, for inviting us for this very pertinent discussion. My name is Roma Balmani. I don't know what I'm doing on this panel, but I think the topic was very interesting to me, because I've always mentored a lot of young students. And today, this has become a topic of interest, because India is now moving towards to be a developed economy. So I think I'll let the other panelists say more, and I'll catch up again.
Okay. Mr. Reddy, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I'm Professor H. Chandra Reddy. I'm Chairman AP State Council of Higher Education. Those who are not aware of the State Council, we are like UGC at the state level. We play almost similar role. And added role is, we liaison with the central statutory bodies. And basically, we are a policy making body on higher education, and we advise the government of Andhra Pradesh, and also we liaison with the universities and central statutory bodies. Thank you.
Myself, Professor Dr. Manpreet Singh Manna. Currently, I am a Pro Vice Chancellor in Chandigarh University, former Director R&D Council for Technical Education, and founder of SWAM. So, from the last 3 decades, I'm doing teaching and learning by profession, by passion, teacher, and contributing to the society towards to the education world. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start off. Ruma, let me come back to you, and then we'll keep it more free-flowing. So tell us what, when you think about employability, building an employability ecosystem, and you can lean on your past as well, what comes to mind?
I think today the scenario has completely changed. One, we are in a post-COVID era. And second is, we've got two kinds of workforce that will look at India differently. As I mentioned earlier, that we're looking at being a developed market, a developed economy by 2047, which means everything has to change. And when I say everything has to change, how do we approach education? How do we approach skill development? And how do these youth of today become the leaders of tomorrow? I think today, when I did read last week a report from the Indian Skill Report, which came out 2023, I was a bit surprised. I noticed that it talks about graduates, and only 46% are really employable. Now that is a cause of concern, because we have a large population which needs to really come into the fold, and we are looking at an economy in the future. So how do we address that? I think what will happen is the youth of today, the public and private sector, will completely change the rules of the game. And I think that is very important to understand, because education is a must. Education is the bedrock. Education is the foundation. But in today's time, how do you upskill? What are the new needs? What are the new jobs? What are the job creations which are coming in? I think all these need to be addressed, and there has to be a great collaboration, connection with the policymakers, with academia, and more involvement by the public and private sector. I think if we can address these issues, we will be working towards having, like Shantanu said, poverty is the poverty of imagination. I think we need to move forward from that quality of imagination and see India as a superpower and how the workforce is going to contribute towards it.
So you mentioned private and public sector twice. Why is that?
I think both these sectors as industry stalwarts are contributing today. If there is a workforce which is employable, they are the largest contributor. So if they are going to get involved with the public policy and with the academia, I think that's when the rules of the game will change.
And when you say public policy, what was the first thought that comes to mind?
I mean, look at today, at least I'm happy there's an India education policy change. Now that's the first thing. The second is how does the industry or the trade bodies really champion the cause of job creation? I think once that starts marrying, both of these will really give the youth an opportunity to see a different sector in the future. There's an agri economy, there's agri-tech coming up. How many of our students are going there? They're not even looking at it. But because we've got so much of technology coming in and the industry is really advancing, that's another economy which can create jobs. So I think there's this requirement of our public policy, our academia, the trade bodies who can champion it.
So on both trade bodies and public policy, I'll come back to you in a moment. Mr. Reddy, go ahead.
Yeah. In fact, Rome was talking about public policy and academia role. I talk the perspective of academia. In fact, for decades of time, the academia settled down to formal classroom teaching. So more theory-oriented learning than practical learning. I think this was a greater hurdle than making a pre-graduate employable. Now in 2020, even before NEP was rolled out, AP thought about it and we have completely redesigned our curriculum. We brought in 30% of skill-oriented courses into the curriculum. We are the first state in the country to implement 10 months of mandatory internship. Let me tell you, when we took a decision, many of my well-wishers came and said, you will be the most unpopular chairman of AP State Council of Higher Education. Look at the volume we have to handle. 3.5 lakh students every year should be placed on internship. Now, we took a bold step. And fortunately for me, my entire government is supporting. Now, Chief Secretary, 16 Principal Secretaries, every district collector, they are exploring, identifying internship opportunities. And so far, in the last 3 years, we could place 5 lakh students for 2 months internship and 2 lakh students have completed their 6 months internship. Now, let me tell you, the internship is quite common with professional colleges, professional students. Very conventional students like BA, BCom, BSc. So we dared to send them on the internship and we could successfully do that. And not only this, when we thought about the curriculum redesign, we have identified one of the biggest problems like Shantanu was talking about industry academia gap and Ruma was talking about it. The gap is ever widening. What happened from fire to aircraft, it took a millennium. It's a long time. But from there to artificial intelligence, something should have happened in a millennium. Appears, compressed, it happened in a century. So the dynamics are evolving and it's too rapid for us to catch up. And academia could not build the capacity within it and therefore the gap is further widening. So we thought blended mode of learning is the best way of tackling the issue. Now today in Andhra Pradesh, we have completely embraced the blended mode of learning and we have built a very strong ecosystem. If I'm exiting matter. So we've built a very strong ecosystem now. In the last year, calendar year, I'm talking about 2022. Andhra Pradesh students have achieved 1,25,000, Andhra Pradesh has achieved 1,25,000 Microsoft certifications alone in one calendar year from among 3.5 lakhs. Totally, we are 1.2 million students in all, put together all the faculties. 1.25 lakh certifications have been achieved from Microsoft alone, And another 1.3 lakh certifications from Salesforce, Google, AWS, to name good technology and a multinational. So we are almost there at 2.5 lakh certifications. And quite obviously, the employability, even the look at this campus placement statistics, 18 academic year 18-19, we were placing only 37,000 students in the campus placements. That is 1/10 of the total capacity. When we roll out the 3.1 lakhs every year, about 1/10 of them we were placing. And last year we have reached 1,20,000. So definitely it is making a difference. Now we are all convinced, not we the policymakers, the primary stakeholder, the student is now convinced. Yes, this is going to work. Now the participatory learning, experiential learning, and exposure to the workforce. Of course, the challenges part of it I will talk to you a little later. But Andhra Pradesh has taken up a very big experiment of sending students outside the classroom. And we also are promoting blended learning, online learning. In last academic year, we could transfer 6 lakh credits, 1,17,000 students would acquire 6 lakh credits and transfer it to universities.
So I'll come to Professor Mana in a second, but you said students are acquiring certifications for Microsoft, Salesforce, AWS. So that is in addition to, let's say, a basic degree that they are doing? Or?
No, we said that's what I said.
No, I mean, my question was, are they running parallelly with the internship or is it independent of?
No, the Microsoft certification gave it outside because government entered into an MOU with Microsoft. It's first of its kind, and even Microsoft says 1,25,000 certifications is amazing. Never happened. But remaining certifications, they are part of the curriculum. Now, beside internship is part. So most of the virtual certifications our students could achieve are as part of the the curriculum. And the credits assigned to these certifications, credits are transferred.
Okay, I'll come back on the other. Yeah, go ahead, Professor.
There are two words we are going to discuss today. One is the employability and employable. So we have to look back. जब भारत था, employable था. अब धीरे धीरे कब पता नहीं चला कि हम इंडिया की तरफ बढ़े, employability क्रिएट हो गई, employable कहीं छूट गई. Now we are going back to भारत again by 2047 क्योंकि 1947 से यात्रा शुरू की है तो वापस आना ही पड़ेगा. We have taken a U-turn. Again, it's going to be a more employable. Now look into the two perspectives. I have to change the way in that discussion. Looking from the eye of corporate today, they say these my country learners are not employable. Agreed, accepted. When I go to the university or a parent's place, ask them to be look it from your eye to your learner, to your word. My son, my daughter is very much employable. Because is that theory of the employability is got changed in the time? Yes, of course. We should accept it. Otherwise, why today a civil graduate, chemical graduate is working in a Facebook, in a Google? Because today, if we are talking, if you are getting the skills, of course, from the Microsoft, AWS, no doubt. But why everybody is in the same field, At the same time, in my country, India, today when it's a Amrit Kaal, आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनाने के लिए मुझे देश में सड़कें भी बनानी हैं, इमारतें भी बनानी हैं, मुझे प्लांट भी खड़े करने हैं, मुझे आज मैकेनिकल इंजीनियर ही नहीं मिल रहा है, मुझे आज सिविल इंजीनियर ही नहीं मिल रहा क्योंकि सारे तो एसी रूम में जाके बैठ गए हैं क्योंकि दे आर डूइंग समथिंग विद आईटी. आई डोंट नो कितना बड़ा हम आईटी में घर खड़ा करने वाले हैं. तो इट इज अ डिसमैच. कॉर्पोरेट को भी अंडरस्टैंड करना पड़ेगा. आप इनको वो वाली दुनिया मत दिखाइए. Today, why I am started an MBA with a parental occupation? I am asked simple question. Fintech थी ना, HR था, finance था, so all sudden you shifted to the parental occupation. They realized it. Employability is different. Employable means everybody. I think who is sitting over here is employable. This guy is doing his job with his study skills. He is employable. That's why he is here. Maybe a waiter, and I'm a manager. You may be a manager. So employable and employability, we have to understand the gap. So as per the university eye, as per the parents eye, every citizen who's an adult is employed. But when the corporate is going to change with the technology so over time, it is a need of the hour. I'm not denying it, accepting. But diversity should be there. It should not be the single corner. That's my say.
So, what's your experience currently? I mean, if you were to look at your last few batches, what are people opting for, and how are you trying to bridge the gap? So,
Absolutely. This is what the most of the universities, including my university, Chandigarh University, because we have a huge learners coming from the different part of this world, including 50 countries and of course my nation. In the second year only, we asked them one thing. Forget it what the parents is looking in you, because हमारे देश में सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम, I should be more in हिंदी, क्यों भावना हिंदी में निकल के आएगी. पिता अपने जमाने में पतंग उड़ाता रहा तो बच्चे को आईएएस बनाना चाहता है, उसको वो कोटा छोड़ के आ जाता है. भाई साहब, आप तब क्या कर रहे थे जब आपको आईएएस बनना था? वो पिता के सपने के चक्कर में इंजीनियरिंग करने आ जाता है. अब उसको सोसाइटी, उसके पीयर्स उसको धकेलते हैं कि तू तो पीछे रह गया, तेरा आईक्यू कम है, तेरा आईक्यू बहुत बड़ा है, तू सुबह पूजा पाठ कर रहा है लेकिन तेरा आईक्यू नहीं है, तो हमारे साथ नहीं चलेगा. ही इज अंडर द प्रेशर ऑफ दैट. हमने बच्चे को बोला है कि आप अपना गोल बनाएं, पेरेंट्स का गोल साइड पे रखें, कॉर्पोरेट का गोल साइड पे रखें, आप भी देश का निर्माण करेंगे. क्या देश को सिर्फ एक ही डोमेन एरिया चाहिए? नहीं, मुझे तो खेलने वाला स्पोर्ट्स का भी चाहिए, मुझे फाइनेंस मैनेजर भी चाहिए, मुझे अच्छा पॉलिटिशियन भी तो देश में पैदा करना है. In that aspect, so we are giving that kind of nurturing from the second year onwards under one of the dedicated department. At the same time, we could find it. मैं आपको एक authenticated data देने वाला हूँ. 38% of my learners, they say, सर मुझे ये वाली आप स्किल्स देने की कोशिश ना करें जिसमें अच्छी इंग्लिश बोलने की बात करेंगे या अच्छा कोट पैंट पहना सिखाएंगे. मुझे थोड़ा सा ये वाला स्किल दे दीजिए. मैं अपने पिताजी के डेयरी फार्म को बड़ा करना चाहता हूँ. मैं अपने पिताजी का सपना पूरा करने के लिए हायर एजुकेशन में जाना चाहता हूँ. तो अब चैलेंज तो रहेगा नहीं. अगर आज आईआईटी भी कहती है कि 100% प्लेसमेंट है तो वो भी गलत कह रही है, क्योंकि 100% तो मेरा टेकर ही नहीं है. माय 100% माय लर्नर डजंट वांट द एम्प्लॉयमेंट, ओनली द 60%. तो वही हमने इकोसिस्टम बनाने की कोशिश की यूनिवर्सिटी में, जिसको वो वाला डोमेन चाहिए वो उस डोमेन में आए. बाकी हमारी एंशिएंट स्किल्स, आज आपका राजस्थान का स्किल जो सिग्नेचर आइटम होती थी, आप कठपुतली बनाते थे, आप डाई करते थे, कास्टिंग करते थे, मीनाकारी करते थे, वो स्किल्स में अगर आज आप जाएंगे तो आपको फ्लिपकार्ट पे, स्नैपडील पे पता नहीं चलता कि who is going to sell this article, this artisans, and where I am getting. I tell you the great story in my country. Even they did BTech, MTech, even PhD. They are doing something art and craft, and they are earning much better than even the IT guy who must be doing something amazing in America as well. So we have to map the skills. आपको भी भगवान ने कुछ देके भेजा, मुझे भी देके भेजा. हम क्या कर रहे हैं, वो स्किल को दबा के दूसरी स्किल डालने की कोशिश. अब बर्तन भरा हुआ है अच्छे से, अमृत था उसमें, लेकिन हम कहते नहीं आज का तुझे ये वाला भी लेना पड़ेगा, चाहे विषय का अमृत मुझे नहीं पता, ये ले लोगे तो मार्केट में खड़े हो जाओगे, तो तुम्हें कोई जानता नहीं, क्योंकि तुम्हें सी लैंग्वेज नहीं आती, तुम्हें पाइथन नहीं आती. दिस इज अ फैक्ट, आई थिंक आई शुड से.
So you mentioned dairy farming. I mean, we use that as an example. So which means that let's say this is a traditional business, family business, and potentially this person, instead of going and joining an IT company, could go and join that. But how many more examples are you seeing of that now that you're saying you have a department which focuses on students' aspirations, tries to direct them in new directions? And what are the changes that you're seeing?
Last year, 52 startups came up from my university on record. That's why we got NAC A+, and you know this comes because of that. None of them, of course, the 4 were there for the app. I said, okay, चलो ऐप से ऐप की तरफ तो आए. ऐप क्या होता है? सोने का, कुछ गंदा खाने का ऐप होता है ना. मैंने कहा ऐप से ऐप की तरफ तो आए. बाकी जो 48% है ना, वो जो 48 स्टार्टअप्स हैं, किसी ने एग्रो को पकड़ा, किसी ने वेस्ट डिस्पोजमेंट को पकड़ा, किसी ने घर में एक स्वीपिंग का सोल्यूशन दिया. वो कोर नीड को पकड़ के मैंने कहा क्यों कर रहे हो सर, इसमें अच्छा पैसा भी है, इज्जत भी है, और ये जल्दी मरने वाला नहीं, क्योंकि घर घर की कहानी है. घर घर की कहानी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो दिस इज व्हाट द डाइवर्सिफिकेशन वी आर गेटिंग इन आवर सिस्टम, इन आवर कैंपस. इफ आई विल नॉट गिव देम दैट इकोसिस्टम इन द कैंपस, अब मेरे अगर कैंपस में वो कह रहा है सर मुझे बैम्बू फर्नीचर से कुछ करना है, तो उसको कहूंगा कि पहले त्रिपुरा जाओ, वहाँ से बैम्बूज लेके आओ तो करें नहीं, I have to bring the resource over here, I have to bring the material over here, I have to bring the expertise over here, ताकि पंजाब में भी बैम्बू फर्नीचर बन सकता है जो त्रिपुरा का बैम्बू से बनता है. So that is one kind of a skill I think. And at the end of the day we are talking something employability that's related to skills. So this is only हम कर कह रहे हैं कि भारत की जिसको विश्व गुरु कहते थे हम दोबारा फिर कहने वाले हैं कुछ सालों के बाद, उसकी स्किल्स को हमने शायद कहीं डिब्बे में बंद कर दिया और कुछ ऐसी स्किल्स को पकड़ने की कोशिश की, वो भी चाहिए, आई एम नॉट डिनाइंग इट. मॉडर्नाइजेशन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट एट द सेम टाइम एक ब्रिगेड इकट्ठी करेंगे. आज हमारे पास देखिए राजपूता रेजिमेंट भी है, मराठा रेजिमेंट भी है, तो आपके पास तिब्बतन रेजिमेंट भी है. अगर एक रेजिमेंट रहेगी तो दिक्कत हो जाएगी ना, तो हमें सारी रेजिमेंट्स क्रिएट करनी चाहिए क्योंकि हमारे डिफेंस सेक्टर्स अलग अलग हैं.
So you talked about entrepreneurship. You said 52 entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial ventures were created, and mostly in the non-tech space. You said agro, for instance, or cleaning solutions. But are you connecting that with employability? I mean, because all may not become entrepreneurs, and all youngsters will obviously not have the capability of starting a company.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sorry, it's coming to me. I'm supposed to be answered. Please, you shouldn't feel in that way. Look at here. The most of the time, today's the youth, the two things is going to be adopt very fastly. एक क्या है दिल मांगे मोर, दूसरा और दिखाओ. Two things. they हमारे लोगों का जो मादा था ना स्ट्रॉन्ग था, एक रोटी से पेट भरता था, आज उसका भरता नहीं. वहां पर आपका जो बच्चे का पैशन है, पैशन टू प्रोफेशन की जर्नी अगर हम करवा सकते हैं, यूनिवर्सिटी को करवानी है. कॉर्पोरेट इज डूइंग वेल, दे आर डूइंग अमेजिंगली गुड, वी सैल्यूट देम, दैट्स व्हाई वी इंडिया कमिंग टू दैट लेवल. लेकिन यूनिवर्सिटी, मैं नहीं कह रहा, हमारी न्यूज़पेपर ने बोल दिया, लीडिंग न्यूज़पेपर ने बोल दिया, योर 80% ऑफ द एग्जिस्टिंग वाइस चांसलर्स आर नॉट कॉम्पिटेंट. ओ माय गॉड, आप मेरे हाथों से घड़ा बनवाना चाहते हो, पहले मुझे कुम्हार तो बना दो. माय 38% faculty is not by passion, they are by force, not by choice as a teacher, as a faculty. I must admit it. It's the data by PwC. It's authentic data. It does mean that gap कहाँ पर आ रहा है? बच्चे पर मैं अपनी frustration क्लास में थोप रहा हूँ. मुझे मेरी IAS नहीं बन पाया, तेरे को भी नहीं बनने दूंगा. तू भी इस IT के चक्कर में चक्रव्यूह में घूमता रहे. अगर मैं अपने प्रोफेशन से खुश हो जाऊंगा, मुझे सच में बताइए मेरे 60 बच्चों में से कितने टीचर बनना चाहते हैं? हाथ खड़ा करवाया मैंने क्लास में, नहीं सर, डोर टू डोर सेलिंग करूंगा, टीचर नहीं बनूंगा. क्यों? आप जैसे फ्रस्ट्रेशन लेके आऊंगा क्लास में. यू आर नॉट हैप्पी विद व्हाट यू आर डूइंग प्रेजेंटली. दिस इज द स्किल डिसमैच. Skill mismatch, that's why we are saying the graph of the unemployability is going to be rise. आज सर आपके घर में आप प्लम्बर बुला के दे दीजिए जिसके पास सर्टिफिकेट होगा प्लम्बिंग का, वो आपका जैकवर का फिटिंग खराब कर देगा 5000 का और लेके फिर भी 500 रुपए आपकी जेब से जाएगा, because he doesn't know how to fit the wrench in that. This is called the gap between the employability and employer. This is a gap we have to fill.
Okay, I'm going to come back. Mr. Reddy, so you said that let's talk about challenges in achieving this. I think the numbers, you said 3.5 lakhs,
yes,
of which you placed 1.3.
That's
this is your current record, but you were at 37,000 2 years before that, so obviously it's moving fast. So let's look ahead.
The challenges are quite a few, Govind. In fact, Prit Singh ji was talking about skewed growth towards IT. Ever since Y2K gave a wonderful opportunity to the Indian youth, we never looked back, we started traveling in that direction. We have gone too far in the direction that, rest of all faculties are marginalized. Now, there was a stage where, engineering was everything and the conventional degrees were never opted, or compulsion of people to join them. And today, within engineering, only computer science is being opted. Now, when we look at it, I'm talking about the demographic dividend advantage India has at this point of time. A lot of workforce, the huge percentage of workforce. Elsewhere in a developed nation, the low double-digit youth population. Definitely, this demands two things from Indian academia. One is produce global graduates who are acceptable by the world, and number two, for all the reasons Manpreet ji has talked about, we also need employable graduates to cater to the local needs, domestic needs. So we need to prepare both of them. See, now the real challenge is those who are motivated, who are into this professional education. They are claiming good and they are very happy towards the end of it. Whatever the job, they are getting a job. The remaining people are quite depressed, and probably motivating them is a real challenge. Giving that motivation and making them realize that any course they pursue in academia is equally important, equally good for the country as well as for the individual. This is the second thing that we need to do. These are the serious challenges that we need to face. Now, I told you that from 37 to 1,20,000 increase in placement. From here on, I feel this job is going to be, my job is going to be a little more. So we also thought about it. We gave a lot of minors. We asked them to go online and then acquire. We even our portfolio is now quite vast, and we said risk assessment, insurance, real estate management, any kind of minors we have created. We have created more than 100 minors now. We don't have capacity built up. This is the second challenge. The teachers are not capable of drifting into or getting into these emerging areas. Now, until we create that capacity, we need to embrace online learning. And this online learning, Manpreet ji was talking about SWAYAM, and now we have entered into an MOU with edX, Coursera is there. But the question is how effective it is. What percentage of students can really thoroughly enjoy doing this? This is the third challenge that we have. All said and done, a holistic education, Shantanu was talking about inclusive growth. Now, Andhra story, we started at 32.4 GER, and very quickly within 2 years we jumped to 37.4. More number of students are getting into our pool. Then motivating them, then defining the purpose of the education, making them realize the importance of this education and the time they spend within the educational institution. These are the real challenges, in my opinion.
Okay. Kumar, you talked about policy and you also talked about industry and academia. Resuming from the same. I also, just to warn Dr. Marshekar and Manish, I'm going to come to you both for some news. Yeah, go ahead. Do you have microphones here?
I think, Govind, for us in practical terms, as a practitioner, as a corporate, what we are finding difficult, they have their own set of challenges in the academia, but let me look at the industry challenge. Today, the industry is looking at so many sectors. Let's take, for example, the healthcare sector. We are not able to find that kind of skill, a common language of skilling. What is that common language where a student comes and tells you, I want to join the healthcare. What do I need to join the healthcare? Then the recruiter also says that what should I look in that student to join my stream of work? So that common language of skilling is something the policymakers have to address at some point, because as I said, the landscape is changing. Now, unless you have some common language, and that's where the public policy can play a pivotal role and create that for the various sectors that are either emerging or for the current workforce to upskill. If they come out with that kind of a policy which enforces both academia and industry to take that responsibility.
You said healthcare, did you choose that for a specific reason as an example?
No, it was just to tell you that today healthcare has become a great opportunity which was not there in the past. Wellness has become something post-COVID. People are looking at it very, very seriously, and it has become very tech-enabled. So again, it's a new kind of sector we are looking at. So there are going to be many such emerging sectors so that we can be global citizens. So as somebody said that we need global students. So these are sectors which will enable them, because there's work from home, there's a hybrid that they talked about. This organization is looking at online, they're looking at apprenticeship. All these need some kind of a common factor. And if the public policy works towards it, our trade bodies work towards it, and you get this common language, that is something which will propel.
Okay, I'm going to come to you in a minute. So Reddy, so when she says common language, is that something you identify with?
No, it's very difficult. Basically, my question to Roma. When will academia get the support they needed from the industry? For the last 2.5 decades or 3 decades, comfortably, I'm a professor for the last 32 years. Ever since I joined this profession, I've been hearing about this industry institute connect. It's been talked, but nothing much is happening. Now today, see, look at my problem. I have to send 3.1 lakh students for internship every year. I'm not getting enough support from the industry. See, the common language is very difficult to define at this point of time. We need to navigate and negotiate through the obstacles and then try to instill that confidence among the students. Basically, see, the primary stakeholder is the student. Now, when we are talking about employability is not all about providing a job to the student. It's about skilling, it is about knowledge, it is about the capacity to excel, it's about mindset to adapt, a lot of things, and ultimately they should be able to deliver meaningful things in a dynamic workplace. So definitely one single language, it's very difficult at this point, common language at this point is very difficult.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Dr. Marshikar, let me rope you in now. I think 2 questions. There's a microphone right behind you. So I think the points that have been raised are to do with academic capacity, industry demand, and supply of students. Or 3 points, I think. So how are you seeing this? I think you've been on, not been, you continue to straddle all these worlds even right now as you speak.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'll have my piece when I speak at the end, but you got me on the spot here. Yeah, in terms of policies, there have been 16 Machine committees, as you know. There is a saying, very difficult to form a Machine committee. I started in 1998 with the regional engineering colleges, which got converted into NITs, if you remember. And my last was also education, that was Maharashtra State. NEP 2020's implementation. So it has been a sort of long journey, and policies play a very, very important role. The challenge with the current policies is that the future is no more so certain. VUCA has become the new normal. In fact, somebody said on the other day that children in senior schools, senior classes, 70% of them will end up in jobs which don't exist today. That's the challenge. Because we don't know what those jobs are. Because we are all sort of job oriented. So I think the policies have to reorient themselves into those fundamental skills, no matter what you are. You are a chemist, engineer, etc. Like for example, dealing with complexity, because we are talking about critical thinking, curiosity, emotional intelligence, all right, cognitive flexibility, and so on and so forth. I don't hear anywhere any discussion with regard to building these fundamentals. We are always talking about dairy or agriculture, etc. It doesn't matter. I mean, frankly, if you just see who headed Microsoft India, Ravi Venkatesan, he was doing Kirloskar oil engines. Basically, he had zero idea about software. And Bill Gates picked him up and he became sort of a great success. I think we need to rethink, very frankly, in terms of those basic human skills, because what has happened with the technology being available, domain knowledge becomes available to you instantly, no matter what sort of that is. So my views on this are rather radically different. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, Manish?
What's the question?
You can weigh in. I mean, we're talking about employability and the challenges, right? So you've heard the discussion so far, I hope.
Yeah. So there are no saints or sinners here, right? The public sector has an execution deficit, the private sector has a trust deficit, and non-profits have a scale deficit. And I think the problem really is around financing. Who pays? Employers are not willing to pay for education or candidates, but they're willing to pay a premium for educated candidates. Candidates are not willing to pay for education, they're willing to pay for a job. Banks or microfinance isn't willing to lend to a candidate unless the job is guaranteed. And education, everybody's trying to toby pin on the other person, right? Government wants employers to pay, employers want parents to pay, kids want parents to pay. So there's been a lot of innovation in curriculum, in pedagogy, in faculty training, but fundamentally the missing piece is who's going to pay for this, right? And the German Minister of Education and Vocation has had a bet with me saying that the private sector cannot solve this problem. I disagree with him. Because in school education, we have solved the problem with the private sector on non-profit response. If we had waited for the government to respond in primary education, it would have been a bigger challenge. Right? So I think that we have to design for financing. I would submit at least what we have learned in the last 20 years as an employer, not as an education institution, is you can attract financing if you do learning while earning, which is you need a component of an apprenticeship with the stipend. You need learning by doing because soft skills are not taught, they are taught. You need learning with modularity, which means a degree is halfway is a diploma and halfway is a certificate. You need learning with multimodal delivery. Online classroom has to be pedagogically and academically equal to an on-campus classroom, which is equal to an on-job classroom, which is equal to an on-site classroom. And fundamentally, you need learning with signaling value. And not social signaling value, which degrees have by virtue of hostages rather than clients, but employability signaling value, right? For an employer, we have traditionally used degree as a lazy filter more than anything else, because you have to kiss so many frogs to find a princess, so you might as well just use graduate as the cutoff. But I think we're all getting tired of the continuously depreciating signaling value of a degree, right? 60% of taxi drivers in Korea now have a college degree, 40% of Walmart checkout clerks have a college degree, 15% of high-end security guards in India now have a college degree. But that is because the world has produced more graduates in the last 40 years than the 800 years before that. Right? So we had as a society on this planet, we decided that social signaling value matters. So I think that the intersection of the three E's of education, employment, and employability is today held back by financing. Who pays? And it'll have to be everybody who will have to pay a little bit. The student will have to pay, employers will have to stand up, and the government will have to stand up. But today we're not able to design for alignment between the three sources of financing.
Got it. Okay, any questions for our panel today? Anyone? No. Okay, so I think we've collected a few points and we're running to the end. So what I'm going to do is ask each of you to sum up, but also try and respond to these 2-3 points. I think one is what Dr. Manchekar talked about. If you're 70% of the jobs that are lying out there have no connection with what you're learning today, or conversely, what you're learning today has no connection with those jobs, which you don't even know what they are. So how are we preparing for it mentally, if nothing else? That's one. And second, I think the point that Manish made about
absolutely
the cost and the finance which sits on the top of all of this.
So I'll quickly just want to be add up. Yes, 10 years back, if you see the curriculum, you see any kind of advertisement of any university, you never saw there is any center of excellence. You never could see there is some startups policy or some angels. It does mean that the corporate world came wholeheartedly to contribute to the education, and in the shape of edtechs. Amazing. If this edtechs could not come over here, and the government of India could not realize the power of the online teaching and learning, we could never ever to be putting this, the target in the NDP 2020 to become a 50% of gross enrollment ratio by 2035, and we are definitely likely to achieve this, because it is the only country in this world where you will find the MBA with the worth of 50,000 rupees, or MBA also with the worth of 20 lakh rupees also. Because we have to cater tier 1 to tier 3. CSR is amazingly happening this is well said, everybody has to be. But why still the learners, the parents, they ask for the scholarships, they ask for the subsidies, they ask some kind of, the skills which you are going to give a 20 lakh rupees MBA cannot be matched with a 50,000 rupees MBA, to be very frank. End of the day, both will be PG. End of the day, both will be UGC in post degree. They cannot compare, apple to apple in that way. But when they will appear for the corporate world, within a single second they will come to who's coming with the skills and who's coming just with a bookish degree. That really makes sense. But that degree is also equally required, because at least we have to make our country literacy level first. Then it comes to the employability part. And end of the day, it's going to be, because we ask the learners, अगर 50,000 की बेटा MBA कर रहे हो तो सपने फिर वो वाले मत देखो, जहाज में घूमने के सपने मत देखो, क्योंकि आप धीरे धीरे वो भी करोगे, डिनाई नहीं कर रहे। वो बच्चा इमीडिएट, अब आईटी का ग्रेजुएट तो इमीडिएट यूएस में अप्लाई करेगा, लेकिन नॉन आईटी वाले को शायद 3 साल लग जाएंगे, उसको रह के यहाँ पर स्किल्स लेनी पड़ेगी। हम आईटी में शायद स्किल्स दे देते हैं। Some of the institutions, like as he mentioned, some of the universities they are doing because they have to charge. NSQF लेके आए थे हम, नेशनल स्किल क्वालिफिकेशन फ्रेमवर्क किसके लिए लेके आए थे? टियर 2 टियर 3 लेके आए, PMKVY लेके आए थे हम, प्राइम मिनिस्टर कौशल विकास योजना। मैंने 15 से इंस्टीट्यूशन को केरला में बोला कि ये आप कराओगे, हम आपको पे कर रहे हैं। व्हाट इज द रिजल्ट? गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने फंड की कब कमी छोड़ी है, लेकिन उनकी जब पॉलिसीज आती हैं तो हम पहले नहीं हमारा यूनिवर्सिटी ये छोटी वाली इनकम पॉलिसी पे काम नहीं कर। अरे भाई मत करो, हमने तो आपको क्वालिफिकेशन फ्रेमवर्क 1 से लेके 9 लेवल का दिया, लेकिन आप कह रहे हो कि नहीं, जिसको स्कूटर रिपेयर करना आता है मैं उसको बीए का डिग्री नहीं दे सकता हूं। क्यों नहीं दे सकते? उसके पास स्किल्स है ना स्कूटर रिपेयर करने की, उसको लेवल 3 दे दो, लेवल 4 दे दो। इट इज एनएसक्यूएफ। उसको जोड़ी एमटेक के जो उसमें चक्रव्यूह में डालना है, बीटेक के चक्रव्यूह में डालना है, व्हेन ही कैन बी एम्प्लॉयबल जस्ट बाय रिपेयरिंग। आज भी बीएमडब्ल्यू खराब हो जाएगी ना, अक्रॉस द रोड द गाय हु सिटिंग, जिसको जुगाड़ कहते हैं, वो ठीक कर देगा आपकी बीएमडब्ल्यू चल पाएगी, लेकिन उसको हम डिग्री नहीं देना चाहेंगे एनएसक्यूएफ का, क्योंकि हमें आईटीएस तो बंद कर दिए। हमें आईटीएस तो चाहिए, आईटीआईस नहीं चाहिए, पॉलिटेक्निक्स नहीं चाहिए। हमें व्हाइट कॉलर तो चाहिए देश में, लेकिन ब्लू कॉलर और ग्रे कॉलर नहीं चाहिए। दिस इज द डिस्पैच व्हिच इज गोइंग टू ब्रेक दिस।
I'd love to debate that further, but we're running out of time. So, is it ready?
So, 2 parts of it. Like, financing is one question Manishi was talking about. In fact, the quality of education is firmly connected to the investment that we make. Someone was talking, I'm not really sure, Harvard annual budget is almost a little more than entire Indian country's education budget. See, when we talk about quality graduates and employable graduates, investments are needed. Funding is a basic issue. I totally agree with it. In fact, at Andhra Pradesh, we took a few steps in this direction. Now, Andhra Pradesh has a policy, 87% of higher education students, irrespective of what program they pursue, their entire tuition fee is reimbursed by the government. Now, 87% of the students are pursuing higher education. I'm talking about 10 lakh students of 12 lakh students. They are pursuing free education now. On top of it, we pay 20,000 rupees towards maintenance scholarship. I think that is the reason why I told you about the GER enhancement from 32.4 to 37.4 in real quick time, and the GPA shot up from 0.81 to 0.94 within these 2 years. See, ultimately money makes a huge difference. Finances make a huge difference. I totally agree with you, sir, but then can the government take this burden forever? This is another big question. Now, unlike the Western countries where the educational institutions, universities receive a lot of charitable funding, philanthropic funding, it's not happening in India. Somewhere the society also should feel the importance of it and start funding it. And sir, with all his experience, he is talking about how do we train the students for future. It's a big question mark. How do we train? But ultimately, we need to teach them the adaptability. See, expose them to varied situations, changing situations, and make them a lifelong learner. And how it is, probably the pedagogy needs to be researched further, improved further, curriculum needs to be improved further. And very fundamentally, the connection between the symbiotic relationship between the teacher and student, so, which I don't know, now I look at it as a very commercial relationship within the classrooms. Now, the ancient Indian philosophy of education, the bonding between Guru and Shishya, probably they need to be revisited at this point of time, and to make sure that people who are in pursuit of knowledge acquisition, they interact with many sources. It is said, Madalubdo yada prungaha pushpat pushpantaram prajit. Jnanalubdo tada shishya guru guruvantaram prajit. Like a honeybee moves flower to the flower to fetch honey. I think a student in pursuit of knowledge should be moving guru after guru. I think we need to create such an ambience within educational institutions with all their experience. In fact, points well taken, but we have a long way to go. If at all we look at the transformative change that we are looking at.
Okay. Roma, last word. We run out of time.
Yeah, just a quick one that the industry academia discussion will continue forever. I think what Dr. Mashelkar's point was that we don't know what are the jobs of the future. And that's where the soft skills are very critical. Job rotations are happening in every organization. And today, I take my own communications department. Who are we hiring over there? Are they MBAs? Are they engineers? Are they coming from different BTech? Yes. We're taking all of them because in communications, I need business, I need communication, I need strategy. So I think that blur is happening for the corporates. And if we address that and we say that the jobs of the future will need, as I said, a certain common language of skills, I'm coming back to that, that's going to be something that will help every individual or the youth who will actually call the shots. The youth will call the shots for tomorrow. What is the job that they're looking at? And today our government is so gung-ho about entrepreneurial, kind of expertise. I think we should tap on that as well. Because that's how the startups, that's how the other part of the corporate world has to be part and parcel of.
Right. And we've seen two good examples, I think, from Punjab and Andhra, how it's coming together. Thank you all. I don't have time to sum up, but thank you all. And thank you once again, Team Leads, for having me here. It's back to the next.
Thank you so much, Govind. This was such a fiery discussion. Please stay on stage for 2 more minutes. This was a bonus session. I'll tell you why. Because I had an opportunity of listening to 3 speakers. We could listen to 5. That's fantastic job done. Thank you so much, Govind. I would now request Govind to hand over mementos to all our speakers. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। May I please request Dr. Manpreet Singh Manna ji to hand over a memento to Mr. Govind Ethiraj. Dhanyawad, sir. Can we please have a group photograph of all the speakers on stage? Yes. The flag bearers of Employability.